Hello and welcome to the Hospitality Twins podcast. I'm Jerry Reyes.
And I'm Ramon Reyes. Tourism offers us an opportunity to visit new places and experience new and exciting attractions.
But it's the people within the hospitality industry that make these experiences unique and memorable.
We look forward to shedding light on the talented people who make the hospitality industry special.
And also to providing coaching and career tips to those seeking to join our industry. We'd like to welcome today two great gentlemen from the city of New Orleans that are the epitome of what hospitality represents in such a great city. Edward Johnson, a valet supervisor from the Lowe's New Orleans, has joined us, as well as Kevin Cheneau, bell captain at Le Meridien Hotel in New Orleans. And, today we have the pleasure of speaking to these two gentlemen that represent so much to our industry and certainly so much to the city of New Orleans. Without further ado, we'll just delve right in, and I'm going to pose a question to both of you. And Ed, I'm going to ask you to answer this question first. How tell me a little bit about how you got your start in the hospitality industry.
Actually, I started out at the Maison Dupuis. Believe it or not, I actually started there as a bus person. Because, coming a part of the Bell staff was a real task to be a member of, because almost every area had its own, its own little culture. So it took a while. It took about a year. I bus tables, I waited tables, I bartended, I did banquets, I was a dishwasher. Wherever I was needed, I helped, because it was a small property, a 100-room property. So, I just jumped in and helped. And the word traveled around the hotel, if you needed somebody, I was the guy you can count on. And that's how I became out front, starting to being the valet, and then running the valet, and then becoming the bell captain. But that was back way in 1984. But I've been there ever since. Been in the industry ever since.
All right, awesome. Kevin, tell us how you got your start in the industry.
So listen, I was at George Washington Carver, class of '79. In '77, I said, let me figure out how I'm going to pay for my high school budget. And I had a buddy a good friend of mine that stayed around the corner from the house. He said, Kev, listen, I'm busting tables at the hotel Louis XVI, again in the French Quarter, a well-known restaurant, a hotel as well. And so I said, okay, no problem, I'll give it a try. And so that began my career in the industry, busting tables, similar to Ed's story. And I stuck with that until I graduated from high school, and I went away to college, little town in Texas called Hawkins, Texas, a little HBC called Jarvis Christian College. But I came back home, and I was able to get back into the hotel industry, same hotel, and for whatever reason, it just clicked for me. And it's one of those things I tell anybody, you can find what it is that you can do in life that you don't mind getting up out of the bed to do. Mm-hmm. If you got that part down, it's easy from there. I was able to meet Ed over at Maison Dupuis back in 92, 93. And he really impressed me. At that time, he was the manager over the valet department. And so I worked on the team with him. And I was able to graduate into becoming a bellman, and thus begin my career in the hotel hospitality industry.
Yeah, well, that's great. I think that's fantastic. I think it's interesting. Both of you guys, obviously different paths, different starting points. I remember, and I can appreciate it because I started off in this industry as a doorman myself as well. And Kevin, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I'm sure Ed would agree, is that people who work in this industry are just passionate about what they do. They don't think about it as a job. You get up and you enjoy coming to work and coming to do what you do. It's great to hear, how you guys started, and certainly, we'll reference it as part of our conversation today. As we find happens many times in our industry, we often find that we cross paths with a lot of the same special individuals that have contributed to the success of our industry. And here in a moment, you'll hear Kevin share a bit of his story and how his path crossed with Ramon's in the past.
And
Mhm. Yeah.
at that point you was making a name for yourself when the hotel became the W.
Mhm.
And so I got a phone call from you. It's sort of like being recruited for a baseball team or a basketball team or something. He said, Ramon called and reached out and said, Kev, listen, I want you to come over to the hotel and work Bell. I said, you serious, Ramon? He said, Kev, listen to me. I want you over there. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I want you to be my Bell captain. And
Mhm.
so I've been at the Dupuis about 5 years. And sometimes it's kind of hard to walk away from good things, but little did I know it was something much better, because at first I didn't really get the concept of W Hotel. But
Mhm.
when I saw the inner workings, I was able to step my game up, because you was able to talk to any guest, and
Mhm.
and and you kind of feel a guest out and see how far you can go with a conversation with them. And
Yeah.
and and and, and like I say, with this work here, it's not even a job for me the way I look at it. Like I say, I have no problem at all getting up in the morning, going in
Right.
on time, and enjoying my day. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those
Mhm.
things, man. Either you like it or you don't like it. There's no middle ground.
Exactly.
There's no wishy
Right.
washy with it.
Well,
And
yeah.
and
Well,
I'll
and I think, well, yeah.
yeah,
I think that everybody has this in this industry just has a passion for it. There's just a
Right.
absolutely,
passion to
absolutely,
serve, and man, it is so interesting to hear you tell that story because you have a
absolutely.
better memory than I do because I remember those things now,
Right.
in those conversations now, you bring them
Sure.
up, and what I recall is that time when we started. You pointed out we both started the same day, and
Absolutely.
you know back then getting a job, especially as a bellman or doorman, back then it was almost like getting, you had to be recruited, you had to
Right.
know somebody. It
Right.
wasn't just something you were afforded the opportunity to do. You had to really
Right.
prove that you had the passion and had everything it took to get into this
Right.
industry and be able to serve our customers and be a good team fit, and
Right.
trust me, you probably and everybody else when I was in those days when I was a dorm made me pay my dues.
I got to walk back a little bit, because you had guys over there that had been in the industry with that particular hotel from the time that it opened. And you had a number of guys that were there, and these guys wasn't moving. These guys like Cypress in a swamp, in the middle of the swamp. They're not going nowhere no time soon. And
Yeah.
so it's like I know I got game, and I know I can do the thing that they do. I can see that part, but
Hmm.
just the fact that they're not going to give this up. So I knew I had to challenge myself and find another location. And so I was able to go over to Embassy Suites, and I was able to get in on the valet team. I didn't get on the Bell
Hmm.
team right away, but I was able to get on the valet team. And so I'm back
Hmm.
to driving cars again. And
Hmm.
I said, okay, then I can see how this is going to work then. There was a guy, Robert Page, that was a doorman over at the
Oh
Crown
yeah,
Castle at the
Robert
time.
Page.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Rob would come down in that morning. He gave me grief. Rob would come down that morning, and I might have an early check-in. And it's like, well, you're not supposed to do that bell, right? It's like, Rob, you got your coffee in your hand. You're not even on the door yet. And so, but it's just going to show you from the time these guys walked into the building, it was all work with them. It was all
Yeah.
work. And
Hmm.
and so, like I say, it's an industry. Nobody has to fire you from it.
Hmm.
Either you're gonna stick
Right.
with it or you'll walk away from it. One of the two.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Exactly.
just the
Exactly.
way I saw it. That
And
was the way I saw it.
and if you don't have what it takes, you will stick out like a sore thumb. That's the other thing
Well,
too.
not on that, you'll leave.
Yeah.
You will literally leave, because like you said, you stick out and you know it's not for you, and there's no way, not enough money in the world that'll convince you to stay. And people just
Hmm.
don't have that. Yeah, everybody don't
Hmm.
have it. And it's like any job
Yeah.
that you do in life, it's got to be something that appeals to you first. And
Hmm.
I tell people the story. I say, listen, even if I had money, I could do this for free, because
Yes.
I enjoy it. I enjoy conversing with guests, because there's always a story that you just don't hear until you talk with a person. And
Hmm.
so
Exactly.
that was the thing that just kind of inspired me in life. And so people say, well, Kev, you kind of fall with people. I say, but the thing is, I tiptoe with them like a baby. And so
Hmm.
that way you don't make a person feel uncomfortable, but you got to be able to read the body language, because a
Yes.
lot of times what you say out of your mouth is one thing, but the body language gives it all away. And so
Hmm.
once you get that kind of pat down, then you can kind of take it from there, whether or not, okay, well, I can go forward with this conversation with the guest, or either, you know what, let me back off and let him come back and or her approach me with it, and then we go from
Hmm.
there. But
Yeah.
that's been my forte, though, man. That's been my
You know,
forte. I
and
never
so Yeah.
Go
No,
ahead.
and I was going to say that it's interesting because I hear you speak, and I know, and we all know within this industry that our title is not encompassing everything that we do, because you are certainly, you could be a bellman, a valet, you could be a customer service representative, but on top of that, we are in many ways, you could be a therapist, you could be, you've got to be able to read people and understand what their needs are, and so studying people and understanding what their needs are and anticipating them, knowing what they want before they even know what they want, is part of what we
Absolutely.
do. And sometimes you can
Absolutely.
call us magicians too, because we make all kinds of great things happen. So,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
The big
Absolutely.
yeah.
component, a huge
I think
component.
also, I think also once W came into the game, it took it to a whole other, a different level,
Hmm.
because they were doing what other hotels weren't willing to do, or not even thinking outside the box to do. Because
Hmm.
you guys would remember, Eddie worked at the W French Quarter. He can attest to this one. It was whatever, whenever, as
Yeah.
long as it was legal. And there was another word that
Ethical.
they said,
Yeah. Ethical. Yeah.
ethical,
Legal
right?
Mhm.
and ethical. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's tools that they gave you to work with, and it fit like a glove, like a baseball bat, the glove and ball together. And so
Hmm.
you had the tools to work with, and so you could step your game up, and it elevated it to such a high standard where you had other guys that you were competing with. Because to this day, Eddie knows. You guys all know Don Hurst, even though Don
Yeah.
Hurst is not with us anymore.
Hmm.
But Don was probably one of the best bellmen. I think the best that I've ever met in my
Oh,
life.
I would
And I
Oh,
hear
agree.
people talk.
100%.
everybody.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
still
I hear other
guests.
people
There's still guests that come in town looking for Don. No matter,
looking for Don.
at any hotel he's ever
Absolutely,
worked at.
absolutely. There
Hmm.
was a guest that when Don when Don left the W, he went over to the Western Canal place, and the guest would come in, and I tell a funny story, and the guest say, "Well, why did Don leave?" I said the canvas got too small. He didn't have enough to paint on no more. And then what? And if you know Don, you know exactly what that means, because Eddie was able to
Yeah.
go to school with this guy, so
Oh
Ed
my
Right.
knew him
God.
as a teenager. So
Right.
Ed
You
had a
grew up
little more
together.
time with him. Absolutely, had a little more time with him. But man, I tell you, and so when the guy passed, I looked at it and I said, you know what? Something was so simple about Don. Don would not let a person, not just a guest, but even a child, pass him without saying a word to him.
Hmm.
Not, he's going to touch everybody one way or another. Either he's going to grab your sleeve, or he'll speak, good evening, hello, or he'll stop and have a conversation with a child.
Hmm.
This guy here, man, when Don come to work, you go sit down. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I tell that to anybody.
Next, we'll hear a little bit more from Ed about how our paths crossed, and he'll talk and make some important points about culture and how important that is in leadership, and also how that can lead to not only success from a service perspective, but financial success for the establishment as well.
So Ed, earlier, Kevin made an interesting point, or an interesting discussion that kind of reminded me of some things just about how our paths have crossed. And
Right.
I remember back to a time, when I met you, obviously at the W French Quarter, when I was a front office manager or a welcome office manager, and you were the bell captain there at the W
Right.
French Quarter. And Kevin was kind of talking about a lot of the different hats that he's worn in the past. And, I remember my time there, and the impact that you had on me and helping me learn a lot as a new manager. And also how easily and willing you were to flex into different roles. And, I'll even give an example of kind of what I recall with that. I remember a time when we obviously had only two meeting rooms there, and we had a need for somebody to do all the audio visual in those meeting rooms that could satisfy the groups that we had, because it were smaller groups. And you had never done that before, but you jumped
Right.
right into it and wore the hat and willingly did it and learned it. And that's just kind of one example that kind of came to mind to me about, a lot of the times that we've worn a lot of hats in this industry. But I have a question that, I'll pose to you. And then, obviously, Kevin, you can chime in as well. But I'll ask it
Okay.
of Ed first. But,
Ed, if you had to think back to, what you feel has made you successful in this role, because, I really have to say that you guys are the blueprint for success in this industry. What would you say that one thing was that you have to think back to really what led to your success in hospitality has been?
Um, my success, like now, like I tell the guys, because of course the industry now is a lot of youngsters. It's younger now.
Right, right.
So, when I was, when I first started, like I said, when I was at the Maison Dupuy, I can go back in my head, and I think I can still find some of the paperwork around here where where we didn't have standards. I actually wrote standards for the Maison Dupuy for the bellman
Wow.
because we didn't
Right,
have them. We
right.
did, that was not a norm thing of a standard.
Kevin, same question to you. Again, if you had, I know you alluded to a lot of this, and you gave us some insight into that from your
Yes.
career and what's led to your success. But if you had to really look at that one thing that's led to your success, what has it been?
I'll tell you guys something that you may not know. I was a little timid and shy as a younger person. I had my
Never,
stepmother.
never.
Yeah, real talk, real talk. My stepmother was really outgoing, and everybody would say, "Man, she's nosy." And so she said, "Kevin, let me explain something to you." She said, "Listen, don't be afraid to speak your mind. If it's two adults talking, you're an adult, then you can say what you want to say. Now, if you embarrass yourself or embarrass somebody, you can always apologize, and people would understand that." And so that was my inspiration of being able to talk up and speak my mind and kind of push the envelope forward. And I can back up a little bit because I met Eddie at Maison Dupuy, and Eddie was an anchor for me. By him being a manager and all, I was able to operate with some impunity, but still at the same time, if I cross the line, I say, "Kevin, listen, let me tell you something right quick." But here's the crazy thing: Eddie is younger than I. I think I may have
Right,
Ed
right.
about maybe about 10 years, and
Wow.
Ed also. Ed, I looked at him as a brother because I knew with his role, Ed, Ed and I were busy. Sundays were all our busy days at Maison Dupuy. And
Yeah.
so I say, "Ed, listen to me. 3 o'clock come. How much you made?" He said, "Well, Kev, how much you made?" I said, "Well, listen, tell me what you made, and I'm gonna bring you up to my status because I know I got more than you have."
Oh
Because I
wow.
looked at him, as a brother because the thing is, he had a kid at the time, and I hadn't had my child at the time. And so a lot of
Mhm.
the stuff that he would do, I know he did it for his family. And he's just that modest he won't say it, but I know it for a
Oh
fact.
yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
witnessed myself. And so I was telling Ed that you were the anchor for me because a lot of times I would be so aggressive and I would kind of go off the deep end sometime, and then you would kind of like pull me back and say, "Kev, listen, calm down,
Yeah.
do this, do that, then the other. I got you. Don't worry." I said,
Right.
"Okay, no problem." And also, I got to tell you guys that this guy actually stood up in my wedding for me. He was one of my best
Wow.
men. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So me
fantastic.
and Ed goes way back, man,
Wow,
way back.
Right.
wow.
And
Right. Right.
Ed has had a lot of brothers, and he said, "Man, Kev, you like a brother to me."
Wow.
And
Right.
and that touched me, you know what I mean? And like I said, we've been
Yeah.
friends ever since, and I'm talking well over 26 years, so
Right.
we
Right.
pushing in on 30 years together.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
that's
yeah,
that is
absolutely.
special in this industry as a whole.
Yes,
And I think back to just something that Ed just mentioned with him having to write the standards, right, and talk about the standards and lead the charge and be the example. And I think that honestly, that is true for everything I've seen from both of you. Ramon talked about it earlier, and you guys have been the example in the industry, and that's why you guys have had this longevity in the industry. And
Right.
when we think about standards, yeah, we can put it on paper, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen that way. But really, what
Right.
I
right,
believe makes sure things happen the way that they need to, with hospitality in mind, with the guest at the center, and by guests I mean our coworkers and our actual guests, is by leading by example. And you guys, we know that you guys do that day in and day out. And at the end of the day, that's really what makes the difference and shows people how to do it the right way. So, that's definitely, you guys are a testament to that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of,
Like I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
like I was saying with the younger generation, it's to me, since I've been doing this for so long, my reward now is to teach the youngster to be that person. You know what I'm saying? Not just look at a dollar sign and look at history. Put history into this
Exactly.
because that's what we losing right now, and that's
Yeah.
what we gotta have.
Mm-hmm.
Being down south, Louisiana, New Orleans, this is what it's about. This is who we are.
Yes.
And if you're not about that, don't come into this
Yeah.
because you making a bad name for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And for all of us who put in the hard work.
Exactly.
People that was before me and paved the way for me. I'm paving the way for y'all, and that's what that's like a first conversation I have with a young new hire. That's what I go into history,
Right,
because I
right.
want to let them know the money is there.
Right.
The money is going to be there.
Right. Right.
But I need you to show our culture.
Exactly.
We need our culture in place first.
Right.
And then we going to get the money. But
Right.
let's do culture first, and then we can grow from there. Because if we don't get this culture, all this ain't nothing but paperwork again. It's
right.
back to the standards I wrote.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Right.
saying? And it's not about that.
Right.
It's about being the person and coming out your heart and let your heart show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
I look at my job as that's my home. My lobby is
Right.
my living room.
Right.
I'm gonna make you feel comfortable
Yeah.
coming in my living room, and then when you walk in my neighborhood, I'm gonna make you, know the spots to go, the good spots, the spots I like, because I'm
Right.
gonna talk to you about what I'll do.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
tell me what you want to do, and I can work with you like that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, so-
And I gain good rapport like that.
Right.
That's because this is my home. This
Yeah.
city is my home.
No,
This
and-
is what I do.
And at the end of the day, you are your own brand. We were talking about Don Hurst, a minute ago, and Don was his own brand, just like
Yes, he was. Yes, he was a hot brand.
Exactly. Right. Right. No, but
Right.
exactly what you're talking about is creating your own brand and the way that you want to do it. And honestly, that is what makes New Orleans so unique, is that we have so many people that are their own brand, and everybody's
Right.
selling their own brand. So it is, again, a part of what's led to your overall longevity and success in the industry.
If I could piggyback off of a point you made, Ed, is it, and I'm just going to reference when I came into the industry, and I talked about this briefly earlier, is that, getting into the hospitality industry wasn't something that was easy, and many years ago, especially in the city of New Orleans.
Right.
You had to either know somebody and that was a testament to why the industry is what it is today, because you were brought in by someone like Kevin recommending someone else. That person was being vouched for and allowed into this club, so to speak, to say, hey, this person is going to represent this hotel, this industry, tourism as a whole in this city well, and so much so that you had to be brought in that way. I remember when I first started, I sent, this is back when people were still faxing stuff. I faxed my resume, had no experience in hotels, but I faxed my resume to about 5 hotels every single day, probably 5 times a day. And then, when I got on, and Kevin referenced this earlier, when I got on at the Crown Plaza, Ernestine Sims was the director of HR at the time, and she brought me into her office and she said, Ramon, I had to hire you. One or two things was going to happen. Either I was going to go crazy because I kept on getting faxes from you, or my fax machine was going to break. My fax machine was going to break. And so, honestly, I got in because of persistence. But so my story is a little bit unique and different. But what I'll tell you is the point that you referenced about culture and what we're potentially seeing go away with some of the folks that make their way into the industry right now, which we don't want to happen, is that culture. Robert Page is the name that Kevin just brought up. My first day, he looked at me. He had a coffee cup in his hand, just like Kevin said. And Ernestine Sims introduced me to him. And he looked. When she told him I was a doorman, he looked straight at me, threw his hands up, and said, "Another person coming in here to take my money."
Right.
But I'll say this: he along with Kenneth and so many other people took me under their wing and taught me the
Tony
ropes.
Dominguez.
They said this is what you need to do. If you're going to be this, you're going to go all in, and you have to represent this team extremely well and understand what you represent to this industry in this hotel. And there was no ifs, ands, or buts. I was, just like Kevin mentioned, I was probably the shyest person you'll ever meet.
Sure,
But
sure.
eventually through that journey and through these guys, this sort of club, this country club of gentlemen, took
Right.
me through this journey to develop me and have me become the person that I've become. And Jerry referenced this earlier. Both of you have done that for us because we both have worked at different stages of our career with you guys,
Right.
and we are who we are because of you and the many people that we work with. But it's important to point out that people don't just come into this industry by chance. They're recommended by other people.
Right.
They're
Absolutely.
vouched for, and then they
Absolutely.
each are vouched for because they have a passion to do this and they understand what service means and represents. And
Right.
it's not just the standards that are written on paper. It's
Exactly.
how you
Right.
deliver them and how you care for people when they come in. I mean, each one of you has done things for people that have nothing to do with your job description. These are things
Right.
that you
Right.
do
Right.
that just they come from your heart, and you do them because you care. Kevin, you said it earlier.
Right.
I would do what I do today for free because I love what I do, and you guys do the same thing.
Right.
You come to
Right.
work because
Absolutely.
you love it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Right.
Eh,
yeah,
Hey, Ramon, I'm gonna bring you back again. Remember we was at the W in Atlanta first day I started. Remember we started with the lady GM.
yeah, yeah.
And she came, yeah, and after because our rush was that morning thing because it was all business clientele running out. So by 9, 10 o'clock we was done,
hmm
and she, you guys walked her around, and she came. Remember, she came to me and she said, hey, congratulations! I know it's your first day, it's my first day. She said, but whatever you keep doing because I love the way you interact with the guests, and you were doing great, and with your first day,
hmm
you know.
Absolutely.
Those
Absolutely.
guys heard her. Yeah, those guys heard her. I was converting those boys at that time because they was a
Right.
different
Right.
breed when I got there.
Yeah.
Right.
They was
Absolutely.
totally different. It was
Right.
all about money to those guys. But those guys, I converted them from being just a money guy and made them start taking time to interact with their guests, man. Learn your people. And they watched me do it and they
hmm
watched me make money off it.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
they learned that New Orleans thing is real. We got to do what this guy is doing because he's making moves and we just standing
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
and leading by example. Jerry, I'll say, bro, you the best at it, dude. I don't care what nobody say, dude. You the best at lead by example. Man, they talk about you all over New Orleans because you put the best foot forward. You'll take that jacket off and go to work. But like I tell everybody, you're a man that's what you do.
Right.
You're not shying away from
No,
it. That's
no.
what you
Right.
Well,
do.
hmm
You're gonna jump in the middle of
you
that.
Yeah.
know just as well as anybody, and I think that at the end of the day, I view my guests as my internal guests and my external guests. My team, I also have always had a responsibility to them too. You know that, and at the end of the day, I think that that's what makes us more successful. And if I'm not in the trenches with you, if I'm not in the trenches with my team,
Right,
then how do I know what my team is going through, and how can I ever
right,
solve it if I've never experienced it? So I think that
Right.
right,
that's
right, right.
what makes
Yeah.
us special.
Hey, Ramon. Hey, Ramon. I ain't shying away from you neither, now, because you used to you listen, because I'll tell you when I used to come to you and we started that co-ed softball team.
Uh-huh.
Our property needed that,
Yeah.
and you was the head leader of that, bro. You really made that happen. You made a difference. I don't know if you knew that,
Yeah.
but you made a difference. You brought us all together. I started learning who was a true native of Atlanta from playing that baseball.
Yeah.
Right.
That actually
Right.
brought us all together. And, in between games, we used to sit around and talk,
Yeah.
and that was putting us together.
Yeah.
That
That
was
was a good
making us a
time.
team. And
Team
yeah,
building.
and
Team
not
building.
today.
Yeah.
Right. That's what
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
takes. Not today. It's just no
Absolutely.
one man. We all got to get out there and go to
Absolutely.
work. That's the bottom
Definitely.
line because we all have the same goal
hmm
to make sure our guests have the experience of
Right.
their
That's
life.
Absolutely.
it.
That's what it's
Absolutely.
all
That's
about.
Look,
it.
look,
That's what it's all
look. Y'all
about.
need to
Yeah.
stop talking about us. We're talking about y'all, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying
Oh,
to get
my
stuff
bad,
out
my
y'all.
bad,
Yeah.
my
We're
bad.
talking
You
about
know, let
y'all.
me.
Well, I never got. Listen, I never got to tell neither one of you guys this, but I just thought this was perfect time for me to put my heart on the line right
Right.
now and let
Right.
y'all know, bro.
But
I
we
appreciated
appreciate.
both of y'all because my experiences with both of y'all was great,
Absolutely.
man. Nothing less.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
First class, bro.
Yes.
Y'all the best, bro. I ain't gonna tell you no lie. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it because we on this pod
Uh,
thing. I'm gonna be real
Yeah.
with you. You guys are top notch, bro. Keep doing what y'all doing,
Look
bro.
Absolutely.
at.
Because
Absolutely.
everybody else gonna catch up with
Right.
y'all. So
Yeah.
set that ball high and make them boys catch up with
Yeah,
you.
Absolutely.
look,
Make them catch up
Absolutely.
because y'all first
We
class, bro.
appreciate it.
Y'all
like
first class.
when it's, and I appreciate that definitely, but when it's in your heart, I mean, it's the right thing to do, and you guys know that because you know both of us. I mean, we're
Right.
just being who we are.
The Hospitality Twins would like to thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed part one of our two-part series discussion with Edward Johnson and Kevin Cheneau, and we look forward to you joining us for part two. See you then.